You are listening to the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and, of course, the Glebe Central Pub. Check out our pub in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. Every time we're back in the nation's capital, we got to go to the Glebe Central Pub. They got the Sens shuttle taking Sens fans to games on the bus. Get to enjoy the game, and then it brings you right back to the pub. $17 round trip. Great food. Great drinks, great people. It's the Glebe Central Pub. I'm your host, Brandon Piller, joined by Jack Richardson. Oh boy, after a 6-3 loss at the hands of the Montreal Canadiens, the Habs now have beaten the Ottawa Senators 3 in a row this season. Good news is there's one game left and it's in Ottawa for the Sens to get revenge, but this was an absolute momentum killer for the Sens that were on a roll here. Jack, how are we feeling, buddy?
Is it good news that they play again, Pilsy? I don't want to see the Habs again, man. I don't know.
I mean, fair, but this would be a tough way for this to end, and at least there's an opportunity for the season series to not be a sweep for the Habs, and at least it's in Ottawa at the CTC, not back in Montreal.
Fair enough. That's a glass half full approach.
I'm trying to find silver linings here, Jack. It's not easy.
I'm going glass half empty. What a vibe switch after sweeping the Battle of Ontario to going into this next, and you just get faced with now you're 0-3 against the Habs this season, and it's not just that it's the Habs; they're right behind you in the standings now. They jumped New York. That sucked. I don't, it's not a vent cast. Obviously, Pilsy. They were coming off 6 straight wins. They were going to lose eventually. It was going to happen. But leading 2-1 going into the third period. Before tonight, the Sens were 26-1-1 this season when leading after 2. That one regulation loss was against Vegas I think that was early November, maybe even late October. So it's been a while. And it stings because I thought they had it. After the second period. I thought they looked good. I thought Olmark was locked in, and then allowing 3 goals in the third period, and then obviously 3 empty netters as well, or whatever it was, 2 empty netters. That sucks. Pilsy. That was a tough game.
Yeah, it certainly sucks. And I mean, if you're the Habs, this was a massive win for you, because not only do you slow down the momentum of the Ottawa Senators, but it gives you so much life in the playoff race. TSN broadcast was talking about the percentages of the Habs playoff odds if depending on what outcome they got in this game, and they needed this as a swing game. And the out-of-town scoreboard, sure, it's good for the Ottawa Senators, but it's also very good for the Montreal Canadiens. And this was a game that is really going to boost them. The Habs have been just as hot, if not hotter, than the Ottawa Senators, winning a bunch of games. I believe now they're like 8-1-2 or something in their last 11 games since coming back from the Four Nations face-off. So I wish it was the other way around, but as much as it pains me to say, you gotta tip your hat to the Habs. It felt like, at least to me, Jack, sure, the Ottawa Senators were in the lead going into the third, but the Habs came out of that intermission with so much juice, and they played a hard game. They played a physical game, and they were able to capitalize on a couple key Ottawa Senators mistakes.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that one of them, I believe it was the Habs' third goal, so it was Anderson in front there, was the result of a Hamonic turnover, and this was the Travis Hamonic game. I was so ready to come on here and just say 1-1 for Travis Hamonic. What a game. And he gives it away there. But they deserved it in the third period. The Habs were much better than the Sens. There's no doubt about that. But that's just what's frustrating, is the fact that they were able to get the lead back after the Habs tied it. It was Hudson, right, of all guys, who gets that goal. And then it's Hamonic, Travis Hamonic goal. I don't know if we're going to go goal by goal, but that's where it really stings, when you couldn't hold on to that lead, where we've seen them do that so many times. Even, I mentioned their record after leading after 2. They've given up the lead in the third. It's become tied again, but then they get it back like they did, and then don't give it up again. But this time was a different story. So that's a tough one. It's a tough one. Their depth really showed up again tonight. Overall, right? Amadio gets one. Yep. And then Hamonic gets one. If you told me Travis Hamonic would have a goal and an assist, I would have thought the Sens won 5-1.
I was up off the couch laughing when that Hamonic goal went in. I was like, I can't believe he hit the net twice in one game, and one results in an assist and one results in a goal. And you could tell from the look on his face and doing the flyby on the bench that he's not used to getting that. And even during the intermission, Gordon Miller kind of said, "Hey, you haven't scored in a while. Did you want to get that first one?" He said, "No, doesn't matter. And thanks for reminding me I haven't scored in a while." Well, then he goes out and gets one. And it would have been so sweet, Jack, to have the Habs get Lane Hudson score a goal, but then Travis Hamonic would have got the game winner if that one stood. But unfortunately, that wasn't meant to be. And I think probably the biggest moment of this game is when the Ottawa Senators, they're up. No, it's a 3-3 game at this point after the Anderson goal. And the Sens are on an odd man rush and their passes don't connect. And the Habs turn it over. And then this is an untimely penalty. But I think if you're Shane Pinto, I almost don't blame him because he knows the Senators have no one back. And the Habs would now get the odd man rush. So he trips up the Habs player there and takes a penalty. What'd you think of that play, Jack? Was that one for you where you're like, you cannot be doing that? Or was that one for you where you're like, I kind of see where Pinto's mind is at, playing aggressive there, but bad time to take a penalty when the Habs have that momentum?
Well, it was a 4-on-2. Like, it was not even just a 2-on-1, 3-on-1. This is a lot of guys. So it's kind of one of those plays where you got to make a chance happen or you're going back the other way regardless, right? The Habs are going to have guys up there changing whatever it is. So I think you could see that process in Pinto's head. It's a bad pass from Sanderson that goes right in his skates, which is rare, right? So I think Pinto even himself was maybe a little bit surprised at the puck going in his feet. And then you can see him in real time. He looks up and he says, a word I can't say, and has to make a play. I don't know who the defenseman or the player was for the Habs, but it was a nice heads up play by him because he recognizes the puck's in his feet, jumps on it, and then, he takes a penalty. And, I'll go glass half full. I'm glad that the Habs converting on their power play, which ended up being the game winner, was a penalty that should have been a penalty, because there were some calls early in the game, especially, where I started saying, oh my God, here we go. Like, it's one of those games, the crowd is into it. We know that in Montreal, but at least it was a play that, like, I agree with you. I think that's one he had to take. Just you can say he didn't have to take it because you never know what'll happen on that rush. But in the moment, I'd rather him do that than just kind of do a flyby, right? So he loses the puck. It's tough. Pinto's one of their best penalty killers. And the problem with that PK, Pillsy, they were killing it. They were doing so well on it too. Like, Giroux killed like 45 seconds by himself, basically. Cousins did a great job too. And then Ullmark makes a great save. And then I don't know what happened. I know Shabbat's stick was in there. I don't think Shabbat's stick knocked it out, but maybe it was a little bit of confusion. You might be able to touch on it more as a goalie, but to me, that's just like Ullmark had it. It was in his triangle, let's say, and then it just squeaks through and Suzuki scores a tap in.
Yeah, that was so demoralizing, Jack, because it was a great penalty kill. Like you mentioned, like the Sens were shutting down the Habs entries into the zone. And then when the Habs did get into the zone, immediate pressure, sticks on pucks, clearing it. And then they have to regroup. There's like 10, 15 seconds left and the Habs get set up. Ullmark with the pad save. And then what I think happens there is Ullmark goes to cover it, but Chabot is so focused on clearing the rebound that he gets a stick in there, which is, I'm not going to get on Chabot for that. That's an instinctive play. But Ullmark goes to cover it, but Chabot's stick is there. So the puck is on Chabot's stick. So what Ullmark does is he ends up putting his glove on top of Chabot's stick, and that moves Chabot's stick, which shoves the puck away from Ullmark. And then that's where that one gets loose and Suzuki's able to bury it. And that's the dagger right there, because the roof went off the building in the Bell Center. They get the lead, and I wanted to believe that the Sens would find a way to make a miracle happen, but it just seemed like that one, finally, the Habs breaking through the dam there and scoring on the power play was just going to be too much for the Sens to come back from.
No, and especially because, like we mentioned, it was such a good penalty kill from the Sens that when they get that one at the end of it, you're saying, and then you look at the time on the clock, it's under 5 minutes, and this one's over. And honestly, they pull their goalie late, and you never know. They've scored some 6-on-5 goals, especially recently against Washington. So you never know. And I think they had some good looks, but it's a quick 1-2 play and then boom, it's 5-3, it's over, and there's still 2 minutes left. Like, it's an early pull, which I don't necessarily love, because you're never getting 2 straight minutes of possession time. So
Yeah.
I've never been a fan of that. I understand the analytics. It's like, go for it. You know, your top guys are out there. You might as well anyway. I just really don't agree with the early pull, because why not let your guys have a face off? And then if they can't figure it out, then, you know, pull them off, and you still have a minute left. Like, you can, you know what I mean? Like, that's 3 full shifts, Pillsy. Like, that's a long time. So I just disagree with it. A lot of teams are starting to do it. And the Sens, I find, have been pulling their goalie around the 2.5 minute mark when they're down. And especially in a game where you don't have the momentum in that period, I didn't like the time of that pull, because it's just like, it happened. It's just a quick out and it's over, right? You lose the puck in the offensive zone. So I don't know. Yeah.
I think it would have been different, Jack, if the top guys had been hot. You know, if you're looking at those guys and you're looking at Brady, Timmy, and you're like, no, we believe in them right now. They're having a good game. They've got the hot hand. Let's give them more time here. I think that's a different story. But as the chat is saying, and as people on Twitter and the box score says, the top guys, they just didn't really have it tonight. And I'm not going to dog those guys. They've been pretty good consistently, and you're going to have nights where it doesn't go your way. And again, I hate to do it, but the Habs did a good job of shutting them down, I felt like. So, but I'm with you in this game. I didn't love the early pull on Ullmark, just because it didn't feel like that was the time to hand it over to your top guys, because I felt they didn't have it.
Well, and they did it too. I think it was maybe exactly with 2.5 minutes. They get a rush. It was as they were coming up the ice. They get a chance and then a whistle. And I thought timeout. You know, I was surprised watching that they dropped the puck right away. I don't know why they didn't call a timeout, but we can hum and haw about that all day. You're right though, Pillsy. That was not the top guy's best game. We know Kachuk's hurt, so that's. You kind of just
not 100%. I think that's for sure. Yeah.
And he had some looks, right? He had some chances around that. He was still a little bit physical, but not Kachuk physical. I wanted a bit more from Tim Stützle, but we can say that, you know, that happens. They have these off games. The thing I think that maybe stands out the most, and it really pains me to say as a Sens fan, is Montreal's top guys were better.
Yeah.
And you can look at this recent hot stretch that Montreal's been on. You mentioned they're the only hotter team than Ottawa since the Four Nations break. Ottawa's got 3 regulation losses. 2 of them are to Montreal. And Montreal's top guys have carried them. They've carried them. So in a way, like, you know, we've done a lot of focus on Steve Staios' moves. You know, David Perron, Amadio, again, gets another one tonight. Dylan Cousins has been excellent. He got another point tonight. Batherson's woken up a little bit. And I know Kachuk's been on a point streak, which was snapped tonight. But overall, it's been a by committee thing by the Sens for this win streak in this stretch. It has not been their top guys carrying the load, maybe except for Jake Sanderson on the back end. But it's worth mentioning, I think, because even tonight, like, I think until the third period, no one on the Habs was noticeable for me except for their top line. Like, every shift that they were out there, they were in the Sens zone, no matter who they were playing against. And at the moment, the Sens just don't have that in their game. Even though they've been winning, things have been great. But their top line hasn't been a top line dominant line. I personally don't think for the last, I don't know, week and a half, 4 games, 5 games. Like, I was at the one against Boston in Ottawa. And even then, like, it wasn't a Kachuk and Stützle show. It was the depth getting it done. It was Greg, Amadio, Pinto, right?
Or even Cousins, Batherson, Perron.
Perron. So that, and don't get me wrong, like, I would take that over the top guys carrying them. But when they lose games like this, where the other team's top guys, you know, Suzuki gets the game winner, we got to talk about it, because they just weren't as good as the Habs top guys. They didn't match them. And that's a game and a team I expect them to be able to match properly is kind of that's my only vent, I think, from tonight, Pillsy, because if this was any other team, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it was the Habs. It was the Habs, and they've had their number this year. It sucks. Like, I know it's 2 empty netter goals tonight, but that's 6 goals, 5 goals. That's 11. They've scored 15 goals in 3 games on the Sens this year. That stinks. And Ullmark started all 3 of them. So, you know, it's just been this little bit an anomaly on the season, right? Where I think the Sens have played great overall this season, defensively especially, but 15 goals in 3 games by the Montreal Canadiens is nuts.
Yeah, it's not good, especially when, like you mentioned, all 3 games your number one goalie plays. Let's get into that. I thought Ullmark had a good game. Like he didn't have one of those goals that he's been kind of known to have recently, where it's a bad one. He made a lot of great glove saves. I thought the glove was working tonight. Most of the goals that happened down low. I mean, look at the first goal, Christian Dvorak. Ullmark's got no stick. There's a 0% chance a goalie can make a save on a breakaway without a stick, because it's so easy for that player coming in all alone to recognize he doesn't have a stick. And all you need to do is get him moving, with which Christian Dvorak does. And Ullmark kind of just has to fall forward, hoping he can stop Dvorak before he gets around him there. And like, that's an easy goal. And that's a tough one because, oh man, like, a goalie without a stick, like, you're just a sit and duck there. And normally he's able to get it, but he, like, the Habs player kind of shoves it into the corner, which, hey, if that was the other way, I would want a Sens player to casually move his stick as well. If you're not going to get a penalty for it, I guess it's the right play. But the Sens get a bad change that leads to the breakaway, and Ullmark's just left hung out to dry there.
Yeah, there's not much you could do. And I was going to ask you about a breakaway with no stick. Like, what does that change? Because I was never a goal scorer, Pilsy. So if I was on a breakaway with a goalie with no stick, I'd just be like, I'm going 5-hole. Like, I have no idea. So
I mean, not a terrible move either, but if you get him moving, he's done.
Yeah, I would go 5-hole regardless. That was my move. Anyway, I think that's kind of a good thing to point out is, like, yeah, he played a fine game. He was good tonight, I thought. I do want to go back to that game winner though, because we talked about it and I asked you what happened. Like, what is that Ullmark's fault then, or is it Chabot's? Because we're podcasters. There has to be one person to blame. It can't just be, it happens. It's the game winner in a playoff game, basically, where you give a team life and now they're all of a sudden 4 points behind you and you still play them again. So to me, as the player, if I was Chabot, I'm blaming Ullmark on that, just because it's I know it's a goalie friendly show, but just freeze it, because he made a great save. And I know his stick's there, but it didn't look like Chabot nudged his stick to me to get the puck loose. It just kind of worked its way loose. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm nitpicking, but there's got to be something you can point out and be like, change that next time if it happened all over again.
Yeah, I'm watching the Edge goal visualizer on NHL.com, just because it's a little less distracting than watching the actual highlight. And I don't know, maybe you'd like Highmore to play that a little tighter, because he kind of dives in late there. But I can't really say I'm blaming Chabot or Ullmark there, because like I mentioned, like Chabot, your instinct, you hear the pad save and you're like, I got to get a stick on this to clear this. Like, you don't even think about it. You try to do that. But then Ullmark, you hear the pad save, the puck's there. Your instinct is just fall on it with your glove. So I think it's just a tough play, and that's one where the Habs get rewarded by sticking with it, and Nick Suzuki buries it. So I get what you're saying. It's the game winner, and we need to kind of find some sort of fault there. But for me, I don't have it. Maybe people in the chat, if you're looking at the highlight right now, you see something different. But I think that's just a tough one that doesn't go your way.
Are we chalking that up to a DJ Smith didn't get the bounce? Like, I really hate doing that. I think to me it's just Ullmark makes the save. So I think Highmore, especially, they have the ISO cam on him after. You can see him kind of like relax a little bit because Ullmark has it, and then he gets in the gear and he's too late on Suzuki. So he's probably thinking, we're good, we got it.
That's fair.
That's where I was coming from. But I know it's not. I'm not looking at Ullmark being like, he's got to be better, can't do that again. But these are the plays that are going to happen, hopefully, come playoff time. Hopefully not against the Sens, but it's little things like this that are going to happen in the middle of games like this, where they're going to be up 2-1 on the road going into the third period, and they need to be able to, and we do as fans too, be able to analyze like what happened, because this is a situation that could absolutely arise again come playoff time. So again, they're in a good spot standings wise. It's a bit tighter than we would have liked, but they gave themselves a good amount of separation. So many home games down the stretch. I'm not worried playoff wise at all. It would have just been really nice if they could have held on to that Hamonic lead, but shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tough one. The Ottawa Senators lose again to the Montreal Canadiens, 6-3 the final, this one in Montreal. So that ends the 6-game winning streak for the Ottawa Senators. But if you want to keep your winning streaks going on the weekends, having good vibes, there's a place where the vibes are always free and the vibes are good. It's the Glebe Central Pub. You guys know they are an official sponsor of the Postcast. We couldn't do it without their support, and they love having Sens fans come to the pub. They even have a Sens shuttle that'll take you to the game and bring you right back to the pub after. $17 round trip. You cannot beat that price in today's economy. Sue, the bus driver, will get you faster than an Uber will get you there anyway. So go with the bus driver, vibe with Sens fans on the bus, enjoy the game. Don't worry about parking. Don't worry about driving if you're having a couple beers at the game. Take the Sens shuttle and go check out, even not on Sens games days, the Glebe Central Pub is a poppin' place. They got great food. I love the smash burger there. We had it last time. They got great drinks and the service is top notch. You got to have good service to keep people coming back. The servers, the bartenders, the owner Blair, all absolute beauties. So go to our pub in the heart of the Glebe at the nation's capital, 779 Bank Street, the Glebe Central Pub. The vibes are free at the GCP. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Upwork. Upwork, new sponsor alert for us. And we love Upwork because they give you the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, developing, design, and so much more. Experts ready to help you take your business to that next level. Take your business to the playoffs with Upwork. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who's delivered incredible results. Instead of hiring someone full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to help scale your business officially. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, guys, Brandon Piller here with Jack Richardson on the Postcast after a tough loss. We wanted this night to go differently. The Ottawa Senators lose 6-3 to the Montreal Canadiens, a third period collapse where the Montreal Canadiens score 5 goals. 5 goals, obviously 2 of them empty netters, but 5 goals. The Sens were up 2-1 in the start of this period. Jack, I kind of had the feeling, like I was feeling good, and the Sens have done a good job of getting the lead and shutting things down recently. But I had the feeling, and let us know in the chat if you feel the same, that the Sens were playing not to lose instead of playing to win. Like it just seemed like they were, anytime they got it, it was just chip and change, which sometimes is right. You got to play smart, simple, responsible. But the Habs just had too much pressure and too much momentum that I really felt that the Sens needed to be pushing for a little bit more offense rather than just kind of getting rid of the puck and holding back, trying to protect the fort, getting rid of it, protect the fort, getting rid of it, protect the fort. How did you feel they approached that lead into this one?
It's a tough balance because they've done so well, really, when it looks like they're sitting back, but it's strategic, right? Like we can't sit here and say they shouldn't sit back because they've done it all season essentially and won a lot of games because of it. But you're right. I mean, when it doesn't work, it looks terrible. I think the frustration for me is just the fact that they gave up the lead and then got it right away again, right? And then at that point, when Hamonic scored, it's under 10 minutes to go in a crucial game, even though they've won so many in a row here. But we've said it before on the show, when you have Linus Ullmark back there, sitting back, and I'm putting that in quotations, isn't the worst thing to do because you trust your goaltender, and they should have because he was good tonight. I thought he had a good game. It sucks that he doesn't get that record of sweeping the original 6 teams. The Sens don't win against every original 6 team consecutively, even though the Flyers were in there as well. But they were as close to perfect as you could get. They lose the last game against the Habs, but it's so difficult because it's so hard to flip a switch. I really do think, though, I would have liked to see a timeout somewhere from Travis Green. I've said that in losses before. When you lose a game like that with a timeout in your back pocket, it just doesn't sit well with me. Like, why not take a second to just calm the bench down? Like he's been part of this turnaround where they haven't gotten down on themselves after, that first goal by the Habs. I thought they did a great job of getting back in the game, taking the crowd out of it. That basically after the Habs' first goal, that next whatever it was, 25, 35 minutes of the game, they were fine in a really hostile environment. But at some point, I'd like to see a timeout from Travis Green after Suzuki's goal, before the 2-minute warning or 2-minute mark. Not 2-minute warning, not football here, but when they had that face-off in the offensive zone, like I don't understand why no timeout was taken. And that to me, I'm not saying it's the difference, but just give your guys a breather. Give them a second to just kind of collect themselves and work on a play or something and have an idea of what you want to do. Like when you lose that, that really doesn't sit well with me. And then it's the only really gripe I have with the game, because sometimes these things happen. Like you said, it was a DJ Smith bounce on the game winner that goes against them. So that's kind of where I'm at, Pilsy. It's a really tough one to break down because, again, the vibes have been so good for the Sens this month. They're still good. They've got a good lead in the wild card race, not in jeopardy of losing a spot at the moment. But they got to get back on the wagon here on Thursday against the Colorado Avalanche, which is not an easy opponent coming into the CTC. Then they're right back on the road for 3 more.
Yeah, I feel like Travis Green is guilty of keeping timeouts in his pocket quite a bit for a coach, especially in a game where it was close in the third period and there's so much momentum swing and the crowd plays such a big role in the energy of the building. So I'm with you on that one, Jack.
Like if you're at home, I get it in a sense, right? Just keep the crowd to your advantage. Don't let the road team set up a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But it was a frozen puck by Montembeault with 2 minutes left. You just pulled Ullmark. All your top guys are out there. Some of them might have been tired from a shift before. Take 30 seconds. Just take 30 seconds to like calm them down a little bit. And then if they score, you look like a genius. And if they don't score, it's the same thing anyway, right? That's what I don't understand. I don't know if it's a split second decision. If he wanted to take one, couldn't hear the ref, like something like that. But that's something to me I would be asking Travis Green after is why was there no timeout? Because you blow a lead, you want one. I think in that Vegas game we talked about, the only other one they blew in regulation, I would think he took one. I think he did. I'm thinking in my head right now. I feel like I remember it, but anyway, that's just looking for things to gripe about. But that's the only thing I can really pick on here, Pilsy, other than the top guys maybe not having their best game. Again, Stützle, really not his best one. Probably his worst one in a while. Just wasn't really noticeable, which is an unfortunate timing for that to happen.
Big time. Yeah. We're going to get a boots on the ground report, though. We've got our guy, Stewart Sabourin here. He was at the Bell Center in Montreal for this one. Stewart, I love seeing you, buddy, but I hate seeing you down like this. This is a tough time. I was hoping we would get you on after a win. How we doing?
Well, it's good to see you, boys, first of all. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough out there. I think, Jack, you 100%, you hammered it on the head. I don't think that the end of the game was managed very well. The crowd in Montreal obviously is a boost to the team, so you need to manage that. And I don't think we did that, but I was fairly confident going into the third, and then 5 goals in that period was pretty rough. Yeah.
Did you like the approach that they had going into the third, Stewart? They were up, and it just seemed like, I don't know if you caught that part of the conversation, but I was saying it was more like they were playing not to lose rather than to win. Did you feel like this was a situation where they could have relied on Ullmark and just kind of chipped it and played smart, simple hockey, or did you feel like they needed to push offensively a little bit more here?
No, they needed to push. I think they kind of sat back on that lead, and then, first of all, if we would have won, I would have named as a joke again this season Travis Hamonic as my standout player of the game. So I could not believe my eyes.
Oh, crazy.
But no, they kind of sat back, and I don't think they managed the front of the net very well. Obviously, I think Montreal had like 2 nice goals and 2 empty net goals, but those 2 goals where they could have managed the front of the net better and help Ullmark a little bit more. I think he was by himself a lot. And to me, that's where the game is. That's how it happened. So I think they kind of either sat back or they were taken aback by the crowd and Montreal, like feeding off of that and then pushing them pushing Ottawa basically. So it happened so fast. It happened really, really fast, and it's a quick sport, but it's so disappointing because we had the lead twice in that third period. So it's obviously a very disappointing end to the game. Yeah.
I'm so sorry you had to see that in person, just based on them choking it a little bit. But the vibes, at least you can remember them going into the third period, were fun.
For sure.
Feeling good. So my question is, and don't feel like you need to hold back here. Were Habs fans nice to you? Because online, I would say I think Habs fans are the worst to Sens fans.
Yeah.
I think it's a two-way street. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's one of those rivalries that definitely translates online too.
Yeah.
Do you think in person they were nice enough, or were they terrible?
So I think online they have to be in the top as worst fan base for me. Like I get attacked a lot, I get insulted, but in person, I hate to say it, but they probably have to be the most respectful fan base I've ever had to deal with. Like the people beside, I was with my friends, but people beside me, they were kind of teasing me. But as soon as Ottawa would score, like when Travis Hamonic scored, I would get up and then I would look at them, and it's very healthy in terms of trying to tease each other. So I didn't have any problem tonight, but one thing I can say is, my God, that building can get loud. Yeah. And when it's loud and you're alone, it is very alone. Yeah, it is very lonely. Yeah.
Pillsy, it's so crazy. A couple weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, when I heard the Olay chants, I was getting all fired up when Canada was up on the US and before the game, and now I hear them and I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's just the juxtaposition's crazy. Like it, but that's a crazy building to be in, I'd imagine, too, when the Sens win. It's just unfortunate they haven't done it this year and won't do it this year.
They won't do it this year, but yes, the feeling of when we win. So I've been going every year since I can remember, and I think Ottawa won for the past 2 years, if I'm being correct. Actually, Pilsy, it started when I went to the game with you and Ross back in April of 2022. That's when it first happened, and I think it was Kaslik's first NHL goal, and like everything happened that night, and then we won for 2 years in a row, even preseason. So when we win, and I'm there and I'm saying bye-bye Montreal, bonne soirée, feeling is unmatched. But when you lose and there's 20,000 people screaming ole ole, it's kind of lonely. And
I'll back up what you're saying, Stu, because when I've been to the Bell Center and it's gone bad for the Sens, which is every time I've been there, so I don't go there anymore. The fans were, they were giving it to me, but they weren't being aggressive, and it was all in good fun, and there was no kind of animosity. So, but online, it's a different story, especially because I feel like you're one of those guys, and you revel in it. You're a bit of a disturbance at hockey games, so it's nice to see some friendly back and forth
for sure. And I've always enjoyed being kind of the asshole there. I like to stand up and make a scene when Ottawa scores, but I've never had any issues. And even back in 2021, when it was the playoffs, Montreal against Toronto, and I went there with my Sens jersey, I kind of feared for my life a little bit, but nothing happened. So I've never had any issues with people over there. And if I'm being honest, if I was in Ottawa and someone like a Habs fan would be living in Ottawa, born and raised there, but a Habs fan, and would go to every single game he could to be a pain in the ass, I would hate him. So I appreciate the fact that I'm still alive today.
Yeah, we're happy for that too. You said you felt pretty lonely there. Well, what was the amount of Sens fans that were at the game?
So I had a couple beside me, but to be honest, boys, it was one of the games where I was present where I have seen the least amount of Sens fans. Yeah, there was a lot. Like, house was packed. Obviously, playoff implications for Montreal are greater than Ottawa. Obviously, they need to win. They want to get in. Ottawa has kind of a little cushion there. But, not a lot tonight, to be honest. Yeah.
Crazy the difference, eh? Like, you go from Saturday in Toronto, you sweep the season series. It's a library in Scotiabank Arena, and then you go to one of the probably like the best building in the NHL, probably, and just effectively get thumped. And that's a tough juxtaposition. Stewart, do you have a Sens Central standout? I know it's a loss, but we'll still do some. I think they played okay enough where we can
Yeah, for sure.
play it
Well,
around here?
yeah, I think Jack, you said it. The first line was kind of invincible. I think Timmy was. I was disappointed. I think Brady's playing hurt, so I was not expecting a lot from him. I like Batherson's goal. As I said, I think I would have named Hamonic as my standout player again tonight. But boys, I don't know what happened, but Michael Amadio has been a different player in the last 10, 15 games. He was by far our most consistent player. And
Yeah.
Allmark played great, and he did the saves he had to do, and I don't blame any goals really on him. But as a standout player, I think Claude won a lot of important face-offs. I don't think he gave the puck away. I think he was strong on the puck, except for that one pass on the power play. But
87.5% in the dot for Claude.
he was
Stu.
amazing. He was amazing. But Michael Amadio, I maybe you guys can tell me. I do not understand what happened, and we talked about it on La Brigade in November as a player that was disappointing us.
Yep.
Like was not performing to the level we thought he would, and then we gave up. Basically, we traded Mathieu Joseph away to kind of sign him.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, he is great. He was great tonight. Honestly, he was very consistent. He never. I feel the puck battles along the boards in the offensive zone, and then in transition, I don't know what happened, but he's a completely different player. And in my head, I wish we could give more offensive time to Zetterlund, but you're not taking Michael Amadio off that line, so
No.
That's not happening at all. So to me, he was my standout tonight.
Yep, you stole mine, Stu. That's a great pick there.
Bad,
No,
Posey.
no, it's a great. That's more of a hat tip to you than anything. Good call there. Thanks for joining us, buddy. It's not on the best occasions, but as we say goodbye to you, let everybody know where they can hear more of your stuff.
Sure. So I'm on X at Stewart Sabourin. You can see my double chin tonight as I post it. Maybe just a shout out to La Brigade since we're friends with Locked On.
Of course.
And thanks for having me, boys. I hope the next time we see each other, it's in Ottawa and it's for the playoffs.
It will be, my friend. It will
I hope
be.
so.
All right. There's Stewart Sabourin, everyone. Give him some Go Sens Go on the way out. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks, boys.
All right. What an absolute beauty. I wanted to see a happy Stewart.
Yeah, me too.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's tough. But you know what? He brings good vibes. He had a good call with the Michael Amadio pick. That was my choice. Jack, we're going to get to our Sens Central standouts right after a quick word from our friends over at Gametime. There's nothing like watching basketball live, the energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. Gametime's new feature, Gametime Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats. So you're not wasting time searching through thousands of tickets you don't even want. I just checked the Gametime app. There's amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. Lots of Sens games left, guys. Make sure you're getting to the building, packing that CTC, making it as loud or even louder than the Bell Center is. Gametime Picks even highlights super deals, giving you the best bang for your buck. And I love that you can check out the view from your seat before you buy. There's no surprise fees and lowest price guarantee, so you're booking with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, everyone. Locked On Senators podcast here. It's the Postcast. Brandon Piller joined by Jack Richardson after a 6-3 loss to the Montreal Canadiens. Jack, Stewart had Michael Amadio as his Sens Central standout. A great pick, in my opinion. I will graciously pass the baton over to you. Who is your Sens Central standout?
I appreciate it, Pilsy. I'm going with a non-goal scorer tonight, even though they did have three. I'm going to go with Dylan Cousins, a guy who has obviously been picked quite a few times. I thought his play on Batherson's goal in the first period in the defensive zone was excellent. I don't have his face-off stats in front of me.
It was 8 for 17, 47%.
Okay, so you know what? Honestly, I locked in on 3 of his face-off wins. They iced it a couple times when he was on the ice and he was caught out there, and he snapped it back 3 times, and Martin Paolo finally got it out without icing it. So I was just picking Dylan Cousins. I just think he's bad. Like we've talked so much about Dylan Cousins, but he's such a great addition to this team. Yeah. He fits in so well. His size, his board battles. I think him and Perron have been great down low and helping Batherson get some space. Like today, like his goal. So I am going to go Dylan Cousins. I don't even know what the underlying numbers were. I know he only had the 1 assist, but he just deserves some more flowers, man. I think he was their best centerman tonight. I don't think Pinto had a particularly good game at all. And obviously we've talked about Stützle. So I think up the middle of the ice, Dylan Cousins was definitely their best centerman tonight.
Yeah, I thought he played great again. Like there's just so many times where I'm watching Dylan Cousins and just small little plays that I love to see. He did finish a -3 tonight, but I mean, maybe some of those were empty netters when he's out there. So I'm not going to put the plus minus up against him too much here. I mean, part of me kind of wants to go Travis Hamonic just because the fact that he is putting pucks on net and actually scored was crazy. But I'm going to go a different way. I'm going to go Claude Giroux here. Like 87.5% in the dot is so massive. That ends up being 7 for 8. He only loses 1 draw in the offensive zone. And I really he had a couple good opportunities, 2-on-1s with Tim Stützle. And one of them, he holds and makes everybody think that he's still going to pass that. And then he just quickly kind of rips it on net. And Montembeault just got a piece of it with his glove there. So I thought Claude Giroux looked good. I thought he was a big part of the penalty kill as well. So I'm going to go Claude Giroux as my Sen Central standout here.
I like that one. When was the last time Claude Giroux was the best player on that top line by a mile? Like it's been a while, and I thought you were right tonight. And that PK especially stood out to me. He killed so much time on it. And they just couldn't kill off the rest of it. But I think Giroux was great tonight. I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, and as ONC mentions, he did have an assist on the Amadio goal as well. So he ends up getting on the point sheet with an apple. So nice night for Claude Giroux, in my opinion. All right. I don't think there's Ullmark didn't have a bad game, but I don't know if I would put him in standout territory. How did you feel about Ullmark's game overall here, Jack?
It was good. He gave him a chance to win again. Yeah. That saying I had a couple postcasts ago though, where if you score 3 goals, it's an automatic win. Ullmark's not letting in the next one. Whoops. We'll try that again. But again, like we're not going to blame the goalie. I think the only thing with Ullmark is he didn't have that save tonight. He didn't have that one save where you're like, wow, that was a sure goal, which he's been doing the last few games, you know? So maybe that's kind of the only where like he definitely played better in Toronto, even though he had that one mistake that needed tonight. But he wasn't the issue tonight. The issue is just the power play wasn't good at all. The power play was terrible. So that's kind of the where I would look. So yeah, I'm not going to blame Linus Ullmark. Again, though, 6-3 looks terrible on the score sheet, even though it was it was a 4-3 game with 2 empty netters. But I'm not going to. I just wanted to talk about that game winner earlier on, just because I don't know what you do differently. Like as a coach, what do you say? I don't even know. So that's a tough one. But I know that Ullmark is going to get heat. He's going to get love because he's a goalie and he's pretty polarizing in that way. But I don't think tonight's a night where you can look at Ullmark and say that's why they lost at all.
No, not at all. I think people in the chat are mostly saying he was fine. He was good. I feel like that's fair.
Gave him a chance to win. Gave him a chance to win. I like doing this with Ullmark just before we wrap up here. With his games that maybe aren't as good, if you put Forsberg in those shoes, I love doing that because Forsberg gets no love. He's lost all,
it's tough for Forsy.
Absolutely no. And I'm guilty of it too, but it's just a feeling when he's in net that if you put Forsberg in net tonight and he has that exact same game, what's the feeling? And I'd imagine that there's a lot more hate on Forsberg if he doesn't freeze that puck than there is on Ullmark, So that's maybe just kind of the way it is with a backup versus the starter. But I do think that it was just a good enough game for them to win by Ullmark, but just they couldn't score at the timely moments.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. And the Montreal Canadiens, they get their 3rd straight win up against the Ottawa Senators. It pains me, Jack, but refreshing the standings, the Montreal Canadiens are now in the 2nd wildcard spot, right behind the Ottawa Senators. The Sens still up on them by 4 points, still a 4-point lead, so we can hold on to that.
And And a 5-point lead, right, on the playoffs, right? That's important too, right?
Yep.
Isn't it?
5-point lead on the Rangers.
5 point. I don't care if they come 8th or 7th. It does. Even if the Habs finish ahead of them, just make the playoffs. It's 15 games left and they're 5 points up. That's my final thought. I'm cutting you off a little bit, but
no, that's fine.
Things are okay. We're good. It was
exactly.
Just that loss feels like a bit more than just one loss because it's the Habs in Montreal.
Yeah, we can't let a loss after a 6-game losing streak and the Sens. I don't know what they're at now on Money Puck, but before the game, it was like a 97% chance that they make the playoffs. Let's see if it updates here.
I think it's 94 now or something like that. Like it's still
95.6% chance still. So like we're in a good spot here.
Yeah,
we're still doing good. We're not getting ahead of ourselves, but we are in a good spot, Sens fans.
You know what? Let's spin zone this as we head off for all the Sen Central citizens still in the chat here. The Habs needed that way more than Ottawa did.
Big
so that's our spin zone. That was just more of a cakewalk for the Sens. If we could have gotten 2 points, it would have been great. Didn't need them as much. That's the spin zone.
We'll get them next time. How about that, Jack? We'll get the 2 points next time. Thanks for everyone for joining us in the chat. I know that's a tough one. I know it hurts to lose to the Montreal Canadiens again, but let's remember we're still in a good spot. We're still in a playoff position. We're still in the top wild card spot, not in the second wild card spot. So things are good, and the Ottawa Senators will have lots of opportunities to get things back in the win column here, including a home game back, some home cooking at the CTC up against the Avalanche before a 3-game road trip. And then April is full of home games and key matchups up against other teams in the race. So hold on to your hats, buckle up, Sens fans. As Brady Tkachuk said, it's going to be a crazy ride right to the end of the regular season. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks to all our sponsors, the Glebe Central Pub, Gametime, Upwork. Thanks to Stewart Sabourin for joining us, even after a loss, for a Boots on the Ground report. What an absolute beauty. Go check out Lab Brigade podcast. Thank you, Jack Richardson, for joining me on this one, and everyone in the chat. Let's get some Go Sens Go as we leave here. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.